So this is probably one of the most evil women I've ever talked about. So the woman's name is Sante, and Sante is 36 when this story starts, and she's living in Las Vegas. And here's the thing about her. She really loves living an expensive lifestyle, like nice cars and big houses and jewelry and all that stuff. And she'd do just about anything to try and get that life. Like at one point, she sets her husband's house on fire multiple times just to claim insurance money. She'll also steal like money and jewelry and dresses and cars and really anything she can get her hands on. Now, eventually, her husband has had enough of her crazy antics and they get a divorce. So now, Sante is single, but she's not gonna stay single for long. She needs a man to fund her lifestyle. So eventually, in 1971, she meets this guy, Ken. And Ken is a successful property developer, and this dude is rich. He's worth about $22 million. So, of course, she's attracted to him, and soon they start dating. And eventually, years pass, and they get married, and they have a kid together. And just like that, Sante finally has access to Ken's money. And therefore, everything she wants. Mansions, cars, and just the lifestyle. But for whatever reason, this doesn't stop her from being a terrible person. Like, I guess to save money or whatever, instead of hiring a housekeeper, Sante starts smuggling young Mexican women in from Mexico to work as maids. And while they're working for her, she really mistreats these maids. She locks them up, she doesn't pay them. Sometimes she'll even burn them with a hot iron if they piss her off. Like, it is crazy. Now, eventually, one of these maids escapes from her home, and the FBI gets involved, and bam, Sante gets arrested. And she gets convicted of trafficking, and she gets sentenced to 5 years in prison. However, unfortunately, 3 years later, she gets out. So now it's 1989, and Sante decides that she wants to celebrate getting out of prison and travel the world a little. So she pulls her son out of school. Her son is this kid, Junior. And Junior, he's around 14 at this time, and he is the son of Sante and Ken. So Sante pulls him out of school, and together they start traveling across different countries, Mexico and Japan, and across all of Europe. And while they're doing all this traveling, Sante keeps living a pretty shady life, and just like stealing from people, even though she's rich now. And the worst part is that she does all of this right in front of Junior, almost like she's grooming him to be just like her. And over time, he does end up wanting to be like her. Junior becomes more and more attached to his mom, and eventually he starts joining in on her crimes and stealing with her. And about 5 years pass, and it's now 1994, and Sante and Junior, they're done traveling now. But it's here that something terrible happens. Sante's husband, Ken, suddenly has an aneurysm, and he dies, unfortunately. Here's the thing about him, though. He actually has 2 other adult children from his first marriage. And of course, since he just died, they should inherit some of his wealth. But Sante isn't about to let that happen. She knows that if Ken's family finds out that he's dead, she and Junior might have to give up his money or his properties. She has no idea exactly what could happen. So she doesn't tell anyone in the family that he died. She keeps that shit a secret. And she quickly has him cremated. And from here, she starts using his credit cards and withdrawing all his money and slowly taking control of his bank accounts. And about 3 months go by. And she finally tells Junior for the first time, like, hey, by the way, your dad died. And she also tells him about her plan to keep pretending that Ken is alive so that she can keep using his money to fund her lifestyle. And surprisingly, Junior is on board. Like, he starts helping her drain his dad's bank accounts and spending all his money. And 2 more years go by. And Sante is still out here spending Ken's money and writing checks in his name and stuff. And that is when this guy notices. His name is Saeed. And Saeed, he's been Ken's personal banker for years. And one day, Saeed notices a lot of strange transfers and spending happening with Ken's account. I mean, dead guys don't usually spend that much money. So he starts looking into it, and pretty quickly he realizes something shady is going on. And eventually he figures out that Sante is the one behind it. Now, at the same time, Sante realizes that Saeed knows about her spending Ken's money, and she knows this is really bad for her. And she decides that from here, the only thing she can do is murder him. So, in 1996, Sante invites Saeed over to her house for coffee, and she's pretending she just wants to clear some things up. So he comes over, and while he's there, she and Junior roofie him, and while he's passed out, they drown him in the bathtub. Then Junior takes his body and he dumps it in the ocean. And just like that, the problem is solved. Then Sante and Junior move from Las Vegas over to Florida. And there they continue living off Ken's money and stealing from other people as well. And years pass. And eventually these two have successfully spent all of Ken's money. Like there's nothing left in his bank accounts. All that's left are a few properties that he owned. So they decide to cash in on those too. Now, one of Ken's houses in Vegas is actually under a different guy's name. This guy, David. Ken apparently put it under David's name because I guess he was trying to hide his assets from the IRS or something like that. But anyway, Sante ends up forging David's signature in order to take out a $280,000 mortgage on that house. And this actually works. The loan gets approved and the bank gives her the money. But then her greedy ass goes and sets that house on fire, hoping to collect some insurance money on it. Now, after that, David finds out about the mortgage and the fire, and he immediately knows that Sante's the one behind it. So he goes straight to the bank, and he reports all of this fraud. And the bank ends up halting Sante's insurance payment. So Sante gets super pissed off. And from there, Junior gets a gun, and he goes over to David's house, and blam, he straight up shoots him and kills him. Then he wraps up the body and he dumps it in a nearby trash bin. Afterwards, he and Sante leave the state and they flee all the way up to New York City. And there, in New York City, they end up renting a townhouse apartment from an 82-year-old woman. And I guess she lives there too. So I think they're just renting out a room in her townhouse. And while they're living in this woman's place, they start wiretapping her phone to collect personal information from her. And eventually they use that information to get a copy of the deed to her whole townhouse apartment. And Sante forges this woman's signature on a deed transfer, and they transfer ownership of the place to a corporation that Sante set up. Then, one day, out of nowhere, Junior attacks this poor woman with a taser in the townhouse, and then he strangles her to death. And after that, he dumps her body in a trash bin over in New Jersey. Yeah, it's crazy. These guys have gotten away with so much so far, it seems like they're just never gonna get caught. Until a few hours later, people close to the woman notice that she's missing, and that's completely out of character for her. So they contact the police, and police start investigating. And it doesn't take long before they connect everything back to the two people living in her townhouse, Sante and Junior. And eventually they catch up to both of them, and bam, they get arrested. Here's Sante's mugshot. Also, here's Junior's mugshot. And ultimately, Junior takes a plea deal and he gets sentenced to 125 years in prison, while Sante goes to trial, she gets found guilty, and she's sentenced to 120 years in prison.